for a minute because apparently there's some system that needs to be restarted. I'm not sure if that's to do with the audio visual or what, but we want to welcome you here and don't want you to feel like we're neglecting you or ignoring you. So how many of you, this is the first time that you've been to What Works? Okay, so we have a fair number of veterans here and a good mix of those who are here for the first time. It's my first time as well.
Yes, apparently what's happened is the system hasn't been able to scan you. They do want to scan you, so can you get scanned on the way out? So that we can get on and get everything.
Fantastic. All right, well, enough of me and on to the important person, Rachel.
People. So we are teachers over in Dubai, and we want to talk to you a little bit about the Dubai Zenko network. It's not going to be lots of information about the network. It's going to be about why we set up a network and the journey that we've been on. The reason that we're hoping to do this is that it will inspire you to set up networks, to network, and to see the benefits that we've had from just linking up initially with us and then expanding out. So, who are we? Okay, so I'm Rachel Green. I'm the Deputy Head at the School of Research Science. I don't know does anyone know where it is? It's in the desert. Quite a long way away, and it's out of the hub. So I'm not near a huge amount of schools, not near a lot of activity. So, this was important for me. Lara is going to introduce herself in a moment, and William is also going to introduce himself. So 6 months ago, we didn't know each other. It's important to point that out. We'd never heard of each other. So I've been teaching 20 years, 17 in London. Is anyone here from the UK, taught in the UK? One, two. So you will know in the UK, schools are encouraged to network hugely. You're put into clusters. There's local authority training if you're in a good local authority. Your head teacher takes your performance management seriously and usually builds training in. So you have a huge amount of opportunities to network, to meet people and to talk to people that you don't work with every day. These are people with fresh ideas. So I also worked as an advisor for the local authority, which for me was my favourite part of my job because I get to go in to hundreds of different schools and I get to magpie all their ideas. I get to go and see all the great things that were going on, and I get to have all these conversations with people. And for me, I just felt like I was growing and growing and growing in my knowledge of teaching. So 3 years ago, I stopped it and decided to come to Dubai. I've never been to Dubai before, so I didn't really know what to expect. Was it a shock? Possibly, because I hadn't realised how insular the schooling system could be over here. That each school sort of is it by itself. There's not a huge amount of networking. When I came three years ago, I didn't speak to another person outside of my school for probably 2 years. It was always just colleagues. And I don't know, how many of you sort of have experienced the same? Anyone? Where you feel you're only talking to colleagues within your school? Is it just me? Just me. Okay, so, but also the thing that I found most worrying is I was seen as the specialist in my school. So I was the person that had the most knowledge when it came to special needs. So I didn't really have anyone to bounce my ideas off. So it was always, oh, well, if something goes wrong, we'll ask Rachel, because Rachel's the specialist. And so did the school move forward? Possibly in the first year when we were implementing basic systems. In the second year, when I had to get my head around all the changes that were happening in Dubai, I didn't fully understand them, and there was no other expert in my school to talk to. The pressure was on me to do it. So I felt quite de-skilled because I hadn't been having professional conversations with anybody. I could read on the internet. I could attend What Works occasionally when it was had something specific around special needs that I wanted to go to. I felt quite isolated in the desert. I didn't know the expectations, and I really felt very, very under pressure. The KHDA come in every year. You're the big outstanding. We're all expected to get, and I had no real idea what does outstanding look like. My confidence, it went down. Confidence in my abilities, it went down because I wasn't sure of what I was saying or what I was implementing. And my head teacher and the principal had total faith in me. They thought I'm doing the right thing, but they didn't know. So the question that I had to ask myself is, have I actually improved my professional knowledge in the 2 years that I've been here? And I want you to think about that now, just for 1 minute self-reflection. What have you done in the last 2 years that's improved your own professional knowledge? So can you just take a minute to do that? You can self-reflect, you can talk to the person next to you, it's entirely up to you. But what have you done? Okay, so we're going to think more as we take the presentation forward. I'm going to hand over to Lara so you can see how Lara sort of came into the mix now.
I love networking and I just got a card. I'm Lara. I am from Canada. I just moved here in August to open a brand new school, the Ontario International Canadian School, the only Canadian school in Dubai, which is kind of overwhelming in and of itself because again, there's nobody, like Rachel was saying, to reach out to when they're back in their home countries like the UK or Canada. You're part of these huge school boards where you can go to PD after school, you can go visit your colleagues and learn from them. So when I moved here, and again, Rachel's story just resonates, all this pressure was on me. I was a learning resource specialist in an elementary school. I just moved from Belgium where I was working as a high school life skills teacher. It was a pretty big jump developmentally to go down to this age level and just have to do something that was so different and a culture that was so different from what I was used to. And the school that I worked at in Belgium was considered one of the leaders in the field of international inclusive education. So I went from having that kind of support and reputation to opening this brand new school and not really knowing what to do and who to reach out to. And then I start hearing that the meandering and the nattering about KHDA and your nerve level just goes up and what does that mean and what is it all about? And I came here in September, I believe. You look very familiar to me. Were you at that? Yeah. In September I came here. It was a little bit less overwhelming to meet different educators, but then you go back to your own schools and it was different. You were meeting principals and you were meeting counselors and you were meeting teachers, but it wasn't necessarily in your field. So I went back to school and exactly what Rachel says, I felt isolated, I was starting to feel insecure, I come feeling so confident. You don't want to get into that downward spiral, just like you don't want to see your teachers or so your students dip to that when they don't. I realized that I needed support and I needed to reach out and to not be afraid to admit that I didn't know everything, even though my title was I'm a specialist. And that's where comes in.
That's my own slide. So I work with Kids First Medical Center, and if you haven't heard of us, we provide services directly both to schools and to children within schools in about 45 schools and nurseries in Al Ain, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai. And my background is a little different. It's been a while since I've been a classroom teacher, but I did work with the Japanese Ministry of Education after graduating from university for 2 years, and a phenomenal experience there. Related to what our network is about, I discovered while I was in Japan for those 2 years that they had separate special needs schools for children that had very pervasive difficulties who couldn't be in mainstream schools. And if you were in a mainstream school, you were either smart or you were stupid. And there weren't any such things as learning difficulties. There weren't such things as special education needs within mainstream schools. It was either you're off in this school where very clearly you are severely challenged, or you're in a mainstream school and you're a smarter student. And over the time here in Dubai, as I built relationships with schools, it seemed like in some ways we have been in a process of moving from that towards, within KHKA's support or pressure, depending on which way you view it, getting to see where children can be in mainstream school of all varieties and to be supported fully. So we were the first pediatric medical center in the UAE, 2006. 50 licensed clinicians, almost all of them working out of schools supporting children. 1,500 children that we currently work with. And we also then help the schools with their own processes, training, etc. I came back from Japan, did quite a bit of what we'd say in the US, or supply teaching, I think in the UK it said, substitute teaching in the US, and maintained some other work, did hospital health, and then arrived in UAE in 2011, not within a school, but working within education, not at Kids First. What I discovered in that company was that a lot of schools were struggling to identify what the language learning difficulties were of their children. Because we have such a large ELL population, it can be very difficult to discern whether a child is slow in their speech and language simply because they're ELL or because there's some sort of underlying difficulty. And what I learned in my other company was that the schools were typically referring children to go and get remedial support for their language skills when actually they had a developmental problem. And that developmental problem wasn't being addressed. And unfortunately, parents could put lots of money into doing remedial work for their children that didn't help them get very far because those underlying issues weren't being addressed. So 2012, I was given the opportunity to join Kids First, where I've been for 3 years. And one thing I learned in that process and interacting with all of the different schools is that as KHKA's special needs were being made progressively more, how would you say? Challenging, thank you, from a school's perspective. Everyone was aware of policy, but there wasn't much happening in terms of advisory. If you wanted to know what you needed to do to get to where policy was, there wasn't a lot of support with that. That was affecting leadership, it was affecting classroom teachers, it was affecting learning support staff, it was affecting your special education needs coordinators. So across the board, everyone has struggled to keep up with something that's becoming increasingly challenging. So in these relationships, interacting with people, we realize, wow, there's a lot of opportunity that we can learn from one another. We don't have to all feel isolated with the same challenge of not being sure what to do. There are some schools who, as we've just been revealed in recent weeks, have outstanding for SEO. Some have good, some have acceptable, some have unsatisfactory. We can learn from each other and pull each other up and keep each other moving forward. So that's where they come in.
Okay. So this was up until 6 months ago. We were all still circulating individually. We hadn't met each other. So William then contacted me and wanted to know what was going on in our school, and from our school's perspective, what would we need? Where were we at? So it was quite good. It made me do some self-evaluation. It made me do some evaluation on what was happening in the school. And I sat down with William and had a conversation, and it was probably the first in-depth conversation I'd had about special needs in 2.5 years, and it was actually came out feeling quite inspired again, passionate. It reminded me what it was that I was here to do, why I was here. So Lara had obviously contacted William. I'd met with William. Lara asked to be put in touch with somebody. So because our schools are both out in the desert, we're not too far away from each other, Lara contacted me. William put us in touch, and I went and met her. And I took my special needs file, Lara brought her special needs file, and we just went through it. And we probably spent about 2.5 hours just looking at each other's documents. And it was actually really nice because I hadn't seen any other documents over here. And we just talked about everything, and it was just nice because she understood when I was asking questions and using SEN language, Lara was able to respond to it. And so I felt like I was an intellectual again. So I felt like I was having the conversations that I was missing. We then visited each other's schools. And actually we got so much. I mean, we probably spent about 5 hours in total with each other. And I felt suddenly like I'd known her a lifetime because she was giving me something that had been missing quite a long time. So we just sat there and we were like, okay, this has been brilliant. Let's talk to more people. Now I knew about 2 people outside of my school. Lara, how many did you know?
Maybe 1.
We knew our colleagues. We worked every day with them. We had good relationships with them. We lived together. We sort of worked together. So the idea of who else can we talk to, we sort of hit a stumbling block. So that's when we went back to William and we were like, William, please help us.
Yes, I love talking about this relationship. It's like when you meet somebody new and you're just so excited. That's exactly what we felt. I like remembering when William was at my school. I think it was actually the same day that he had visited Rachel's school. He then came to mine, and he was just asking me, how was everything in Dubai? And we just, talked about it at a rudimentary level. Oh, I just moved here. He was giving me ideas for things I could do in the community. I still have that, that you sent me to get out there. And then he started asking me, how are things going at the school? And I said, I don't know who to reach out to for speech and language pathologists, occupational therapy, behavioral issues. I'm at a loss. I've come from a school where all of that was provided, and now who's out there? Who pays for it? All these practical questions come to mind. Because again, we're in our home countries. There's a government that I knew much more about than I did here. Those things just aren't funded the same way. So, like Rachel told you, really to think of someone who I think would really be helpful, who put us in touch. Through an email again, I asked Rachel to visit my school. She visited, I think it was in January, the new year. It was a great way to start. I went to visit her school, and now we had this brainstorm that we had to reach out to more people. And so the 3 of us got together back at my school again and started to just brainstorm. What would be helpful for teachers? One of the first things we talked about was an IEP. Do schools all have an IEP? Are they common? What's supposed to be on them? Are we tracking data properly? Are we involving other teachers? Are they just documents that sit on a shelf? Or how are they being monitored? All these kind of questions. We're thinking, what would be helpful for other people? What's helpful for us? And that's how we kind of started generating that first agenda. And like Rachel said, we had very few contacts. I've been out in the yoga world, and anytime I meet somebody from yoga, I would start talking about what I do, and I maybe met 2 or 3 people that way. Like Rachel said, she knew a few people. And then again, it was William who had this massive contact list that we thought, let's just not spam, but let's just send out a general email and see what people think Are they looking for this as well? Do they need support in this particular field, in SIM? And I think, how many people did you send that email to begin with, William?
The initial email was probably about 50 to 70.
People, yeah. So we sent out that first email, we designed a logo together, we planned the agenda, we sent it out, and we were so thrilled with the initial feedback. I think about 30 people, about the next slide now. About 30 people came to our first meeting from about 20 different schools. And Rachel's school has a beautiful auditorium, what would you call it? Training room. A training room, it's lovely. And so she arranged for us to go there. She had some biscuits and some, what's it called in the UK, cookies?
Yeah.
She had some biscuits and some coffee set out. And we had our first meeting there. We just, right away, everybody, that spark that we had, where we felt like we'd known each other for so long, a room full of people felt that way, where we could just connect and talk about things that made sense in our language. We gave out questionnaires at the end of our meeting. I think the guest speakers were myself. I talked about IEPs. We had from Williams Medical Center, Nanette, who I believe is the owner, speak about the history of special education in Dubai, which was very interesting for many of us. We didn't know how far things had come, because one of the questions that I kept asking myself was, why are parents so reluctant to share information? Why am I finding out about psych ed evaluations in January that should have been shared with me and the rest of the team in September? And it was through Nanette's talk that I realized that there was so much shame in the past. We're still trying to work through that. That a lot of schools shut their doors. They were not inclusive, and that parents started to feel that they needed to protect their child, needed to advocate for them, and that meant hiding information if it was going to get their child into the doors to begin with. So that was, it just gave me more empathy and more insight, that you weren't so judgmental and weren't so angry with trying to understand the process that they were going through. You know, and I think one of the gentlemen at our first meeting called it the new frontier, that this is a really exciting time in Dubai for special education, that people are opening their doors, schools are being more inclusive, but now we need to not just have the policy, we need to have the infrastructure in place. And I think that this first meeting was definitely a success. And I mentioned we gave out these evaluation forms at the end of the meeting, and 100% of the people we asked, was this useful? All, checked yes. Would you like to come to another meeting? And we started asking, what would be useful for you? What type of topics do you want to discuss? How often do you want to meet? We didn't want to make it just about the three of us. We wanted this to be useful for everybody who was coming, so that eventually it's a committee that's transparent and that involves the community that's out of it.
Can I just say, we had no idea anyone would come, or if it was just the three of us that were feeling that we wanted to connect with the rest of Dubai. So, to have 30 people turn up, to have another 25 say, we can't make this one, but can you put us on the mailing list for the next one? It was kind of a huge sense of, it was a relief, because we didn't know if it was just us. Maybe we weren't making enough effort, maybe, we weren't doing enough research. So to actually have what we were feeling kind of reaffirmed by all these other people that were attending, and some people, they travelled all the way from Sharjah, they travelled from Ajman and the other side of Dubai on a Thursday afternoon, where they then had to sit in 2 hours worth of traffic to get home, meant that this was something that was needed.
There was one educator, Susie, who's been teaching special education in Dubai for about 18 years. She just said, I've not seen anything like this. And there's so many people that I see at different events, but not all together with this, who are all doing what we do. Actually, the sense that we got at the end of the meeting was a lot of gratitude. People coming up and saying, thank you, we needed this. It's exciting that this is now happening in Dubai.
So the idea here is to talk with you about the power of networking, and this is a story to illustrate this, and hopefully you'll consider this within your own areas of expertise, influence, etc. But it's not all without challenges. We know that we have close to 200 schools just within the private sector in Dubai. We had 30 people show up at the first meeting. And while we were very grateful for that, we wanted it to be broader. Some of those individuals came with someone else from their school. Most of our list started off with people we already had contact with. So some of the challenge came up with, what do you do next? Well, before that first meeting, partly where that email list came from was me personally calling school after school after school saying, hi, could you please put me in touch with the person who would most likely come to this event? Now you can imagine the first challenge here is, oh, you're trying to sell us something. Okay, let's dodge and let's shift this off to somebody who can simply ignore or reject your email. So we tried to make sure that they understood this is a no-cost event. This isn't, and I'm calling not from the school, so it also sounds like I'm selling something. No, this is something that's made up of teachers. This is something that already has this many people that are going to be there, and we're looking to build this, most importantly, as a grassroots network. We're wanting to make an organization that's with everybody that nobody takes credit for. Currently, because we're not very well established, it's the three of us here. Next time we're invited back, it'll be 3 different people. So reception could be a challenge. And I discovered that some of the schools in particular were more challenging than others. Some had an immediate happy to send you through. Some it was very much trying to guard and protect. And I can understand from both sides why that can be important. But what we did notice was that people started telling their colleagues about it. Now the challenge is we have a British school, we have a Canadian school, and then in terms of our connections, it was also with a lot of American, British, and Canadian schools. So as people invited their own colleagues, we had difficulty getting outside of that network. And one of our challenges we discussed was we don't want to be just British, Canadian, international schools. We want the full range of Dubai. We're still trying to work on that. But I did receive a call. Any counselors here in the room? Did any of you attend the event that was here a few weeks back for counselors in Germany? Yes, okay. So David, who organized that event, had contacted me about our participation. In the process, I said, oh, David, fantastic. Can you please, through your network, help us to get more of the schools through the counselors connected in with Syncom? And he was really great about doing that. She recognized there, connecting in with a related organization that shares similar desires and concerns can really open up doors. We also were very fortunate that out of 2 newspapers that we asked to come and attend, the National showed up. And so that helps us to get some of the word out. I don't know how many of you read the education section. I try to go onto it about once a week and online and see what's there. Oh, you have a copy there. And then Rachel set up a Twitter account as well, so that anybody who's, are any of you, by the way, active Twitter users? Okay, so we have potential for reaching a few other people because of that. So trying to think of creative ways to expand and broaden the network. Obviously, first it starts off with a desire to do that, but then you have to figure out ways to overcome obstacles and get the word out to a broader range of people.
So the next thing we did is we met again, 3 of us. This was a fun meeting. This was at a restaurant with just a little napkin where we took our notes. That's like the best way to brainstorm, I think. Just goes to show how grassroots it was. And again, we met, we looked at the feedback forms. We created our first newsletter. We thought about the next month. I think our first meeting was in February. And we found out from people that they wanted to meet every 2 months, give or take. And the next month coming up was April that we could meet, and we thought, well, that's Autism Awareness Month. Why don't we do something in the newsletter that speaks about autism that will support the people who are in this field? So we thought about a new location, and at the end of our last meeting, somebody had come up and offered their school, Raffles International. So all the pieces were starting to fall in together. So we created this newsletter. We reached out and asked a particular educator to share her story and her background, so we can inspire people through her experience here. Again, that's Susie, who's been here for 18 years, wrote a little profile. And again,
Any of you know Susie Hutchins? She's been here so long. Okay, a couple. Yeah.
So we, again, just put together this newsletter. We had our next location. We had our next topic. We thought about guest speakers. We wanted to involve a parent this time and have their perspective. So we invited a local Emirati parent to talk about the challenges, the journey of raising an autistic child. William just happened to know someone who published a book. What's the author's name?
Kathy Hoopman.
Kathy Hoopman, who published a book on Asperger's, and so she decided to come. She was available, waived her fee that she would normally charge so she could come and speak to us. And we sent out this email, and I believe this time we had 75 people from 50 schools. And because of the venue raffles, that was our limit. And so we actually had now a waiting list. So going from, please bring a buddy, to now people from schools were actually fighting for spots to be able to come. And now, again, after this last meeting, we've had so many people approach us who would like to present. And that's exactly what we want. We want to delve into this rich pool of talent and expertise and experience. One of the things that came up was that there's a lot of focus on students with special needs, but what about the gifted and talented route? And there's a big push on that from KHGA, and so we thought in September we'll move towards looking at that.
Yes, next. Okay, so we had no idea how interesting you find this, but the reason that we wanted to take you on our journey was to talk about the benefits not just of our network, but the benefits of networking and setting up your own network. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be, it can be small, it can be something that's within the schools that are in your local area, it can be schools that have a similar curriculum as you, but the benefits of the network, things that I didn't have 6 months ago. I have access to over 100 schools now. The people that are coming along to the Senko network, every single one of them has said, you're welcome to come and see what goes on in our school. You're welcome to have a look at the paperwork and the documents that we're using. We're looking at setting up a Dropbox so that schools, once they've agreed things with their senior management, can drop blank documents in so that people can use them as reference materials. Obviously school logos would need to come off and you need to get permission from the leadership team, but all of a sudden there's a library, an online library, which, for us, if we'd had documents like that when we first came over, it would have been amazing. So we have access to all these schools. We share professional documents. We have these professional conversations. We can work together to solve problems now. So, my question was, what does outstanding look like in special needs? There are outstanding schools now. I can go and have a look. I'm going to understand what outstanding looks like now. And these schools are more than happy to invite us in. So that's perfect. I have an address book full of contacts. So if I have a question that I want to ask, it doesn't matter how silly, and I've said this to everyone else, you can ask me any silly questions that you like. I can phone someone, I can email someone now, or I can send an email out to the network and get 50 responses, so I can get a better understanding of what's going on. So the impact that has is what I'm able to do in school is much better, because my professional knowledge is improving again, my confidence is growing. I know what I'm doing far more than I did a year ago now, because I was getting lost, I didn't know. Now I know, because I can ask people. And not just other schools, there's medical centres, we've got different people getting involved now with the network, from universities, researchers, people that are impacting on government policy are actually emailing us saying we want to be part of this. And it's like, wow, we can get like the fast track now to all the information. Whereas before we were waiting months and months and months to try and understand that. And that information is being shared very quickly across the whole of Dubai. So the respect that I have now from some of my colleagues in school, because I've done this, not that it's anything great, any of us can do this, but the assistant head that sits next to me in school, she's like, oh wow, you're amazing, I wish I could do that. And I was like, do it. Just find those first contacts. Those contacts might have more contacts. So, and also job opportunities. The people that you meet through the network, I know that we've had some CVs because we've got some positions available at school. we've had some CVs now come via the network. People that were interested in working in our school, we were able to talk about some of the opportunities that there are in our school, and actually start doing some recruitment from people that understand Dubai, understand the system. You know, we're not having to bring people over from the UK where they're going to start from scratch like we did. So these are the benefits. You know, this is not just a benefit for the Senko network. These are benefits that you could be experiencing. These are these things that can happen to you if you're part of a network. Some schools were they're really good because they have networks and they have cluster groups. Many schools don't. And so it's the idea of reaching out and sharing good practice.
Can you transition to the last one?
Yes. Can I just show the next one? I'm not going to talk about it. So these were networking opportunities in Dubai. Most of these you may have heard of, been part of. Some of them are here today. And you know, this is where you will find somebody that will have a similar interest to you. Okay. Next one. So.
Okay, so this is a think to yourself, take 30 seconds. You don't have to share with anyone anything you're uncomfortable with, but think 30 seconds. What's holding you back from achieving your goals? Don't look at the other questions. Black out the screen here. Okay, stop and think for a second. What are your goals? What currently is holding you back from achieving them? Okay, so now, how could you grow yourself interacting with others? And here I asked everybody part of the network, well, I got back 30 responses, to send back a quick blurb about why they want to be involved. They said, I grow intellectually, professionally, personally. I increase professional development, collegiality. I exchange ideas, I share best practice, growing relationships, etc., etc. Turn to the person next to you and share something that you could do, maybe something you learned today, maybe in a relationship that you had today, in order to keep yourself developing and achieving the goals that you want to achieve. Just turn briefly to the person next to you and share with them. Okay, now it's time to switch to the other person if you haven't done that yet. Make sure the other person has a chance to share. This is me and Okay, now looking around the room at how closely some of you are sitting to each other, I'm guessing that not everybody came in this room without knowing anyone, that you might know the person next to you. So what I'd like now, maybe had a more comfortable conversation, you've been sitting next to each other for an hour, maybe you're from the same school. Now stand up if you would, find one person that you don't know, and go and share with them this same bit of information that you've shared. All right, but everyone stand up, please. everyone stand up for this. So if you can stand up and go with someone that you have to get said hello to, introduce yourself, share your hand. So, now, there you
the idea about You don't have to end your conversation. But please do when you leave, make sure to scan your ID. Okay? Thank you. We just need 5 venues.